Scary story. I'm sitting here as usual, binge watching TikTok before bed. Who doesn't do that, right? I'm scrolling through my feed watching funny videos, and then I stumble upon some guy's live stream. He's exploring an abandoned farm. I'm thinking there are plenty of extreme bloggers like him, but something caught my attention. Suddenly, the camera shows an old black and white photo in a frame on the wall, and it hits me like a bolt of lightning. It's my grandparents on their wedding day. I'm glued to the screen. I can't tear myself away. I remember this photo from my childhood. It always hung in their house. It was my favorite photo. There's no way this TikToker broke into my grandparents' old farm. It was completely abandoned after they died. I look at his username, Explorer005. I'll have to check his profile later to see where else he's been. But now I'm just afraid to look away from the screen. What if the broadcast ends? He continues through the house, showing the living room. An old leather chair is so shabby. The cushions are all sagging. The fabric is torn. A fireplace made of wild stone, and above it a huge oak mantle. It used to be such a cozy place, but now everything is somehow crooked and cracked, and those lucky horseshoes that always hung above the fireplace are now just lying in the ashes, so dull and lifeless. But before they shone so beautifully in the evening sun. The guy says something into the camera, but I barely hear him. I'm simply overcome with a wave of nostalgia, and a kind of indignation that someone else is walking around there. There are so many horseshoes here, he says. There was one on the door, even in the kitchen floor, and these apparently hung on the fireplaces. Well, of course there were probably horses on the farm, but there are simply unrealistically many of them here. Everyone knows that a horseshoe is supposedly good luck, but they also say it wards off evil spirits. I roll my eyes. Well, of course, another experiment in the paranormal. Although, you know, his words gave me goosebumps. My grandparents really did have a lot of horseshoes. I'll have to remember that. They had horses for a long time. Then transportation appeared, and they somehow stopped keeping horses. And as far as I remember, my grandparents weren't particularly fond of them. Although my grandmother was a bit superstitious, she was constantly looking for horseshoes, heather for luck, and a four-leaf cleaver. As a child, I loved visiting my grandparents, and loved almost everything except one thing: going to the toilet alone. It was upstairs, at the very end of the hallway, far from the kitchen and living room. For little me, it was a real adventure. Climbing the stairs was no big deal, but as soon as the door to the living room closed, I found myself in such a cold, quiet hallway. All the sounds downstairs seemed to be trapped behind thick walls. The air there was so still, you could almost hear a pin drop. You'd walk forward, then turn 180 degrees to go up the stairs, and at the top, the landing was this weird split into two levels. You'd go down a bit, then turn right, and there was the bathroom. But going back down, that was just terrifying. As soon as I was old enough to go to the bathroom myself, the moment I turned the corner and started climbing the stairs, I'd be overcome by this chilling feeling, like someone was poking me in the back with a cold finger. I'd race down the stairs and back to the kitchen as fast as my little legs could carry me. And most importantly, you absolutely had to avoid looking back at that landing. If I did, something bad would happen. I couldn't really explain that feeling as a child, but I remember it now. It was like some kind of slowly spreading dark mass. It seemed to be flowing out of the walls of that back landing, thickening, and all it needed to take shape was my terrified gaze. And then I'd abruptly open the wooden door downstairs, and it felt like all the colors had suddenly returned to the world. The warmth and noise of the bustling house simply overwhelmed me. It was like pressing P, and the movie starts again from where you left off. On live television, a guy with a camera approaches this enormous oak door. It hangs by one hinge, slightly ajar, or noticeably wobbly, and I notice, even before he says it, that a large cast iron horseshoe is nailed above the threshold. So huge, like one of some heavy breed of horse. I don't remember it, but it suddenly seemed so important to me, as if it was hung in a last-ditch attempt to stop something. I clutch my phone tightly, and I can practically feel my palm getting sweaty. I'm sure they shouldn't have gone so deep into this house. I watch the comments flashing on the live feed. How creepy. Some kind of bad energy. Has anyone else seen a shadow? With a trembling hand, I start typing comments so they'll leave. Just run, out of the corner of my eye. As I type, I see the guy push the door. It creaks open, and just as I'm about to hit send, I hear him inhale sharply. What the? He whispers. My phone practically drops out of my hands in surprise. On the screen, I see two emaciated figures in some old nightgowns standing in the doorway. They have such unnaturally wide smiles that the skin on their faces is taut, and instead of eyes, there are just black holes, like portals to the underworld itself. And the creepiest thing is that the grandma and grandpa are holding hands. It's definitely them, despite this terrible appearance. Although it only lasts a second, it feels like I've been staring at those distorted faces for an eternity. And then some kind of nightmare begins. The guy with the camera suddenly turns around and runs back. The camera shakes, Everything flashes as he rushes towards the exit. Well, I swear, the moment the phone jerked, I saw those creepy smiles on their faces turn into some kind of animalistic growl. I was glued to the phone screen, listening to his heavy breathing, and watching the flashlight beam dart across the walls and floor. He's almost to the back door, but suddenly he turns the wrong way. Another 5 or 6 steps, and he'll be out. And then such a piercing, inhuman scream erupts from the phone speakers that I jump a foot off the bed. The live stream is over. The broadcast just vanished. I tap the screen but nothing happens. He's out. I search for his username in the app, but it's not there. I sit there for a long time, just staring at the ceiling. My heart is pounding like crazy. I should have commented earlier. As soon as I realized this was their house, maybe that would have stopped them. And then a notification pops up on my phone, a direct message on TikTok. Oddly enough, the sender's name is unspecified. Come to us. Just like that. Without any hints, I sigh and reach for the notepad on the nightstand to cross another attempt off the list. The deep grave didn't work. The stones in the mouth, the black salt, the holy water, the heart stake. Nothing keeps these two restless souls in the grave for long. We don't know if it's the earth itself, the family curse, or something else. Did they see that black thing I was so afraid of as a child? Was it the cause or the symptom? I look through the list of things left to try. Next up is decapitating the corpses. I don't like the thought at all. I quickly text my brother. Trouble at the mill. That's our code word. Grab a shovel. We're off to dig up our old granny daddies again, to see if we can finally put them to rest in peace, like they're supposed to. The problem is, every time we try to put an end to it and fail, every time they return, they're more changed than before. The last time they emerged from the grave, they looked just like themselves, only dead. It's creepy, sure, but at least it's understandable. But those nightmarish figures I saw in that video tonight are nothing like them. I'm afraid we're giving them power, somehow fueling them, but we can't just let them roam free, especially when other people are falling under their influence.